Okay, we're now on to part 4 of our mini course on virtualized displacement. And before we go any further, I just need to point out something I may have missed in part 3. And that is, let's take a look at this image here. You can see that there's some aggressive smoothing artifacts going on. And if you recall, I ended up setting this to smooth. If I render it as flat, I don't have an issue. But if I go to smooth, I'm going to want to make sure to come over here and check auto smooth and make sure it's something small like 10 degrees. Then that will fix it. And then when we go back into our rendered view, we'll be fine. And as we talked about before, we were just, we're actually adjusting our specular, keeping it kind of low in these large scenes like this. So in this segment, we're going to actually do some of the more fun stuff. And that is, we're going to place a bunch of interesting elements all around our scene. So if we look at our scene, we see that we've got our pipes and our virtualized displacement and all of our maps, but we also have some other fairly interesting things. We've got these little buildings with these little rooms inside them, and they're kind of placed around. We've got decals over here. We've got some hero elements. There's a vehicle here, a couple characters over here, and in fact, we even have a character right on the edge over here, which we'll talk about that here in just a second. Some antennas, and basically what this does is it actually draws our eye into the center area and allows us to kind of discover things as we look around. Makes for a much more interesting and possibly a storytelling type of a scene. So now we're back here, and let's talk a little bit about the kpack that you're going to get if you're a member of the Patreon or you're on the Discord ideation creation. I'll be posting the kpacks with all the contents in both those places. So what is a kpack? Well, kpack is used with this kitops program. When kitops is the premier kit bashing add-on for Blender, and there's a free version and there's a pro version, and there's a lot you can do with the free version. And in fact, pretty much everything I show you here can be done with the free version. You're going to want to install the kpack into an existing master folder. And if you're interested in learning more about how to install it, just go to the URL that you see on the screen here. Description of this YouTube video, there are links for both the free and the pro version of kitops there. So to access the kpack, it's called VirtDisp, which stands for virtualized displacement. You can click on it and you'll see that these are the individual items that come with this kpack. And I'll explain a few things. First off, I'll mention that this is a parallax shader. We're going to talk about that later, but that came from GREEZYBEAR and his Sci-Fi in a Box kpack set, which is pretty awesome. Definitely want to check it out. The other is these decals, like this one, this one, this one, this one, all these decals, they are part of one of Sir Charles's excellent decal kpacks. I highly recommend you take a look at him. He's an incredible talent and has a ton of amazing decals there. So definitely check those out as well. So let's start off by talking about this Parallax Insert. And kpacks are basically folders of what we call inserts. So if you look at all these are all inserts, and here's a kpack. So let's go ahead and I'm going to navigate into here. Let's just go into kind of an EEVEE view, material view, and let's set one of these parallax rooms over here on the side. I'm going to grab this, and first I need to make sure I have my object selected that I'm going to add it to, and then I'm just hit this add insert, and now it's going to come in. It's going to come in actually at the right scale, and I'm going to just drop it right over here, something like this. And now once it's dropped, I'm going to go ahead and hit the / key on my numpad in order to go into local mode, so you can see what this is. So this is an actual single plane, but it actually shows you a whole room. And there's a tool that we have called kitops Parallax that allows you to build these fairly quickly. GREEZYBEAR has a couple of these in his Sci-Fi in a Box kpack. But anyway, just want to kind of show you how cool that is. And one of the neat things is once you come into here, you can actually do things like adjust the positioning of stuff. So if I want to, I can move some of these things forward and back. These are what we call sprite layers. So I can move them forward and back. But anyway, so that gives you an idea of what can happen. The other thing is that we're going to want to change the color of this. And I'm going to show you how we can change the color a little bit later. So let's get out of local mode. And here we have, as you can see, we've got our room already added there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my view here. Let's go back into this where we can darken this up quite a bit so we can see what's going on in the view. And you can see that there's our image right there. And I'm going to just pull it out just a slight bit so that make sure it's not interfering with anything. By the way, these things work great in cycles as well, you can tell. So we're going to go to cycles, you can see. And as you can see, it's not really bright enough, and we're going to fix that here in a little bit. Let's go back into EEVEE, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift D, duplicate, and then press the Y key so we can go in the Y direction. I'm going to stick another one right over here in this, kind of in this area, right outside this little dot right here. So we have a couple of them there. And then with this selected, I'm going to say Shift D, and I'm going to move it up somewhere like there. And then I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say ktabash, Relocate Insert. And so now it's going to basically try and snap anywhere I put it on this particular object, because it knows what object it's on. So I'm going to go over here to here, and I'm going to snap it right on there, and then I'm going to drop it down just a little bit and move it forward just a little bit so we can see what it looks like. So I'm going to stick it right there. There, we can see that's where we're at. So we're going to just stick it, and maybe raise it just a little bit up, move it a little bit farther forward. We can see it. Okay, so you get the idea. So it's just a little sliver of a room inside there. And let's go ahead with that selected, and let's just Shift D and drag it over here, and then we'll right click on it and say ktabash, and I'll say Relocate Insert, and I'm going to put it down in here somewhere, like maybe down in here, just something so that we can kind of see. So now it looks pretty good. These are pretty good, except they're not very bright. So we're going to want to change the coloring and the brightness of them. So let's go back in here, the material that we have it selected. Let's go make sure, yeah, we got one of these selected. So when we edit one, we're going to edit all of them, of course. And I'm going to tab into our texture group, and I'm going to expand this a little bit. And so the first thing I'll do is Shift A, and we'll just add a math node, right? And I'm going to add it the top one, and we're going to make it multiply. And you can see if I say 2, you can notice it got much brighter, much quicker, and that's really good. The only problem is that now things are more or less gray. So how do we fix that? If I press clamp, you'll see that it does clamp these, but I kind of want this to glow. There's a front area right here that, you know, looks pretty cool. So now I want to actually punch out some colors on this. And so what I'll do is I'll say Shift A, and I'll go to my color, and I'm going to add a RGB curve, and we put that in there. And if I look back at this, let's look at this, and I'll see that, you know, I've got a lot of yellows and browns kind of color. These are coming from the HDRI. So what I'm going to do is I'll select this, and with this RGB node selected, let's go into the R, and let's just punch up the R. And we got more R, and let's punch up this, the green. So now you can start to see we're getting kind of a nice color that fits with our design. That looks pretty good, actually. I think we're in great shape. So I'll tab back out of here. So that's one way of handling the color issue there. And now if we go back out into our rendered view, you'll see that these are already starting to pop out quite nicely. And if I want to, I can just tab into them, and I can even just bump this up maybe more, 3. And they'll get even brighter. So you can kind of get the idea. Okay, with that done, the next thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to add some buildings to this. So let's go in here, and let's take this one. So before we add this next building object, let's go ahead and let's select this plane right here. Let's go ahead and make sure we got it selected here, this one. And I want to raise this up just a little bit. I just want to give it just a little bit of a raise so I can kind of see that there's a border around there. Give us a little bit more of a kind of a fence or something around there. And with that done, let's go ahead and add this building. So I'm going to select the original plane, and I'll add the insert. And I can use the middle mouse button to scroll the size of this. And this looks about, let's make it maybe a little bigger, something like this. I kind of want it to be big enough so I can stick one of these windows in it, or one of these rooms in it. So it might need to be just a little bigger. Hit the S button, scale it a little bit bigger, like this. Let's go into this view here. And these shadows are bothering me, so I can just go right into here, turn off shadow. Okay, so let's go ahead now and take this, and I'm going to drop it down outside that, something like that. So we have this kind of a ramp area coming up. And then I'm going to grab one of these. This is one of those parallax shaders. And I'm going to Shift D and move it over here. And I'm going to move it back. We'll move it right in here, something like this. So we have this kind of a sliver looking out. If I look at that, we'll see what that looks like. Yeah, that's pretty good. We have this very dark building amongst all the rest of these. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to give it that B displacement map. Okay, and that's, now if we look at it, it's way too complex. And so I'm going to go ahead and create a copy of it and call it C, get rid of the O's. Now I can start to adjust it. And so let's bring it up. And what we can do now is, now that we have this as its own material, let's try 0.2. Yeah, that's a little better. And that's for the actual surface. And then I can go for the dots, 0.07. There, something like that. So that gives us a little bit better of a match for what we're doing. And then let's put another building over here, select plane. Actually, I can keep this selected if I want, because ktops is smart and it knows not to ever put an insert on top of another insert. It'll always put it on the parent of the insert. And if you want to override that, of course, you just go down and you say remove ktops props from an insert, and then you can put an insert on top of it. And so that's how that works. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this actual object, and I'm going to add this insert over here, and I'm going to make it somewhat big too. And then with that selected, I'll just make it bigger. And you can see where it is. Let's move that to the front like this, and maybe move it up just a little bit so we can see the whole thing. And now I'm going to basically hold the shift key down and select this. So I have these two selected, and over in my materials, I'll just say copy material selected. So I have that over here now. Now I'm going to map one of these parallax planes to this, but this is an insert. So like we talked about earlier, I'm going to basically go in here and say remove ktops props from this. So now I've removed it. Once I've done that, I can come in and grab my plane and just go over here and just snap it however I want to, something like so. And that shows the room inside there. So next, let's go ahead and, we've got our characters here. And by the way, they're right there. And because we have this area up here, let's go ahead and go into this mode. Here's our view, our camera view. So let's put a character right up in here, this area right here. So I'll grab one of these, make sure that smart mode is on, because if regular mode is on and you click on something, you're just going to get part of it, right? But if you put smart mode on, you get the whole group of characters, right? So I'm going to take that and I'm going to shift D and I'm going to move them over here somewhere. And then I'm going to right click on him, right click and say ktops, relocate insert, and it'll automatically snap in place. And then if I hold the Alt key down, I can rotate him too. So that's another kind of cool thing. I can rotate him any way I want. So I'm going to have him looking out this way. Let's do that. Let's go back into our preview and we can see now our character is here. Now I can cheat if I want and say scale, hit the S button and make him just a little bigger, just even though it's not 100% accurate. It's probably will work fine. Maybe I'll say Shift D and put another one here and right click on him and say relocate insert and stick him right on there. So there we go. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add some antennas to this scene. Let's grab this one first, and with the plane selected again, we'll just add an insert here. And as I drag it around, you see it's really tiny, and now it's really big. So let's just make it somewhat big like that. Now, before I click to place it, I'm going to hold the Shift key down, Shift, and now I can drag it around and just continue to place it one after the other. I can just stick them anywhere I want. And let's put this one here. I can say G, Shift Z, and just move it, where I want. I'm going to do the same with this antenna. I didn't shift click on this time, but here's what's kind of cool is if I want to add another one, I can just hit add insert and it remembers the scale. I might want to rotate this one a little bit more, stick them over here, but so I can move around and add it. And let's grab this little one right here, this guy. And then if I Shift D and hit the Y button, I'm moving it where I want it, and then I can hit S and scale it, so I can have like a couple of them grouped together. Shift D, Y, S for scale, so you get the idea. So that's what that does. Okay, I think we've got antennas. I think this one right here is going to get in the way, I think. So let's G, Shift Z, and then just move it. Since we're going to stay on the same plane, we'll just stick it somewhere over here like this. And let's take these guys. We'll select 1, 2, G, Shift Z. There we are. So now let's add the carrier bot, which is here. We'll add this insert right here. And I'm going to scroll down so that he's, you know, something a size that we like. I can R for rotate and Z. I can rotate him along a dimension. I'm going to go in and add maybe some more stuff like this greeble kit right here. Add that maybe over here. Maybe make it fit this corner like this. Let's give it the C displace texture as well. And you know, there's other stuff in here. There's these kind of greeble things here. There's a lot of things. So just, you know, play with it, have fun, and enjoy, you know, adding stuff. There's a corridor section right here, which could be kind of interesting if you cut a hole in something. Now let's go ahead and add some decals. So the first decal I'm going to add is I want to put a big circle in here. With the plane selected, let's grab this big circle and we'll add this insert right here. And let's just kind of grow it up. This is kind of some kind of landing pad circle or something like that, it might be. And then I'll go ahead and grab the smaller one and I'll put it, you know, kind of in the middle like this. And then let's go in here to the materials for these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use kind of a yellow material, something like this, maybe a little more yellow than that. Turn the material color on. You can see there it's on. And it might have to go a little darker, it looks like. And we may want to just jack the specular down a little bit. And let's punch up the intensity somewhat. I'm trying to get it to match kind of this color, the colors that we have going on over here a little bit. There we go. That looks better. Let's go in here, and then we'll take this color and Control C it, and we'll select this one and Control V and turn it on. And let's take the specular down on that too, something like so. Now the problem is as we can see, this stuff looks a little too pristine. So I'm going to go back into cycles so I can actually dirty it up a little bit. We'll come in here and I'm going to make this maybe 0.692, and you can see what's happening here. It's actually cutting it out. This decal erode feature of these ktops decals allows you to basically erode the decal. I'll go in here on this one, and let's see, what do we do here? That's 0.675. Control, just hover the mouse over here, Control C, go over here, hover the mouse, Control V, and we've got the same thing. So I may have to come back and adjust those later as we start lighting this, but for now, let's just leave it like there. Okay, let's keep on adding some decals. Let's grab this one here. So that's going to be it for the decals. Let's take a look and see what we have here now for our scene. Yeah, I think we need something down here in this corner right here. So let's go ahead and see what else. Let's grab one of these, and we're going to add, with the plane selected, we'll add that insert down here, and I'll scroll the mouse wheel as I'm adding it. Get it kind of a little bit bigger here. Let's just put it like something like so. And then let's just scroll to the top and say C displace. Now, notice that if we go to look at this, it didn't get this one. That's because this particular insert, and we're in smart mode, it's going to select the parent object. So I'll turn the regular mode off, select this, and then hit Q, and then we'll say copy material selected like we did earlier, and now this comes in fine. And by the way, when I look at this, it's really dark in here. So really quickly, I'm going to just add an area light. Oops, undo. Let's right click here and Shift A, and let's add an area light. Let's move it up, and let's hit S, a little bigger like that. And let's, let's give it maybe 500. There we go. So we have a little bit of area in there, and we'll give it kind of maybe a blue color, it's like something like this. And let's go back into our view. Maybe we need to move it. Kind of see that what we're doing here, just kind of breaking that out. We'll get more into that as we get into our rendering. For now, we're in pretty good shape. I think that we're going to need to lighten things up just a tad. If I go back into our exposure, you see very high. Let's just go to high contrast. That's going to, now I can start to see some of the stuff that's going on down in here, which is nice. And then we'll do a real quick render. Okay, here's the render finished. And what we can see, we've got all our props installed and put in place, and we got a couple characters over here and some down there. We've got our parallax maps, and everything else is looking good. Now, you need to understand, it's not really lit perfectly yet, and we're going to work on the lighting here in just a little bit, but we're going to do a lot of it in the compositor tab, and we'll play around with that. So that's the next session, is going to be focusing on creating a cinematic effect with compositing. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching. See you. Bye.